So for example 2, we're going to solve the following equations by completing the square. Now we're going to do this because we've only got one tool or two tools right now. Option 1 is we're going to try and factor. That is a possibility, except there's no way we can factor this equation. Okay, so that was option 1. That's the first way we learned how to solve quadratic equations. So if we can't factor it, we're going to complete the square. So we take our x squared and x terms, and we separate them from our constant term. Okay, again, solving means we're trying to isolate x. So by doing this, remember we take half of our middle term, so negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5, and then square it. So that's going to be positive 25. If we've added 25, then we're going to subtract 25 out here. So now I've got x minus 5 squared, because I've created a perfect square, minus 22 equals 0. Now I can follow the same steps that I did when I was up here with examples, or with part C of example 1. So I'm going to solve by, first of all, moving that subtract 22. So I've got x minus 5 squared equals 22. I'm then going to take the square root to get rid of my square. X minus 5 equals positive or negative root 22. So x will equal 5 plus or minus root 22. So again, we use this strategy when we can't factor because we need some way of isolating x. So factoring would maybe be a little bit easier, but in our particular case, it doesn't work out that way, that we can't do that. Now, we would have to plug these in and check for them still. But because we're dealing with a quadratic and we are talking about things that our domain is negative infinity to positive infinity, it should work. Okay. So you would want to use a calculator, figure out what this is in decimal form maybe, and we would plug in 5 plus root 22 squared minus 10 times 5 plus root 22 plus 3 and see if that equals 0. Just use your calculator. You don't need to show all your work. Okay, it does work though, I promise. Do the same thing for 5 minus root 22 squared minus 10, 5 minus root 22 plus 3 equals 0. And if you plug that into your calculator, you'll see that that works as well. So those are my two answers. Remember, two answers. B, we see the same scenario happen. I look and I'm like, okay, well, can I factor this? Because that would make my life a lot easier. Unfortunately, when it's a negative constant, that means I need opposite signs here, and there's no factors of 3 that when they're opposite signs are going to get me to 4. So that's not going to work. Factoring is not an option here. So again, I'm going to complete the square. So x squared plus 4x minus 3 equals 0. I'm going to use a different color here just to keep track of kind of what I'm doing exactly. So half of 4 squared goes up in here, and that gives me 4. So I'm going to subtract 4 out here as well. So I've got x minus or plus 2 squared minus 7 equals 0. Move the 7, so I isolate that squared term. I'm going to take the square root of both sides. That leaves me with x plus 2 equals positive or negative 7. Therefore, x is going to be negative 2, plus or minus the root of 7. So don't drop that negative when you move it over. Okay, since we're adding it here, we would need to subtract it in order for it to move. Again, because we're dealing with radicals here, I strongly recommend you plug this into your calculator to check. Again, it would be negative 2 plus root 7 squared plus 4 times negative 2 plus root 7 minus 3 equals 0, and it should work. And it would be negative 2 minus root 7 squared plus 4 times negative 2 minus root 7 minus 3 equals 0, and that should also work. But again, check it with your calculator. Don't take my word for it.